stay on the grind, elevate, elevate, this is our time, elevate, elevate.
Welcome, good morning, folks. Hope you're doing well. Welcome to the Elevator Report on this beautiful Thursday morning to you beautiful people. Welcome to the show. There's a lot to talk about, and we're getting into all of it right now. Welcome to the show. Very happy to be on with you. Obviously, elevated energy levels this morning. People are asking, what is it? Caffeine? Cocaine? What is it be? Well, guess what? Nothing. It's only the beautiful human spirit up in here and a little bit of H2O. Keep it hydrated, baby. That's the energy levels this morning. That's why things are going crazy. Everything that's been happening. We have the situation in Iran and how that's having the ripple effects throughout the region, but as well as the world putting a bit of a, jolt, maybe some derailing of Mark Carney's new world order plans. And it's getting interesting. I'll tell you that much. So we have the fact of breaking news this morning coming out of China, which we're going to be discussing here, is that they're halting all gas exports, or at least minimizing their gas exports right now and trying to focus on their needs at home because, well, they purchased a lot of their oil from Iran. Oil's not moving through Iran right now because there's something happening over there right now. That's what I'm hearing. So they're now in mode of trying to be in protectionism, protect themselves and making sure they have enough fuel to get through. They have about 100 to 110 days worth of crude oil in reserve, but they'd prefer not to have to touch that. You know what I'm saying? So we're going to be discussing that. But as well as we're going to be discussing, we have a prime minister here in this country. I'm getting word that we have a prime minister in Canada. I've been missing him. I don't know where our leader's been, but we have one. Because I'm hearing one thing one day, another day, then another thing this day, and I don't know. The thing with Mark Carney is he can't pull a Joe Biden. He can't just say, well, I'm getting older, I'm having my cognitive faculties are depleting. He doesn't have the Joe Biden excuse. He's just being plain obtuse. And that's what's happening with him. People are getting really frustrated. We're going to cover that. And of course, last but not least, we'll be discussing this new partnership, this new strategic partnership, right, with China. And now we're starting to see the results of that. We'll be covering some of the pieces coming out of that. There's doing this and so much more. Welcome to the Elevate Report. I'm your host, Josh. If you get any value from today's episode, take the time to like, share, and subscribe. It helps us to grow. It helps us to get to new audiences and helps people see that there's something different than what the mainstream media has to offer. Shout out the chat. The chat's lighting up. We love to see it. We have a lot to discuss this morning, folks. Okay, let's get into it. Folks. All right. China tells top refiners to halt diesel and gasoline exports. China's government has told the country's top refiner to suspend exports of diesel and gas as an escalating conflict in the Persian Gulf disrupts the arrival of crude from one of the world's largest producing regions. China, known to purchase, I think it's upwards of 80 to 90% of Iran's oil. And now, well, Iran's not providing that. And China's like, okay, I guess we got Russia now. Our fuel is going to start coming from Russia. That's about all we have at this point in time. So there's some issues happening with China at this present time. And it's not just, obviously, everyone's feeling it, not just China, but other Asian countries who are now struggling because they can't get the oil from Iran or at least the Middle East at the moment because, well, the Hormuz Strait is not being used at this present time. So while the country is only the third largest supplier of oil products into the region, its vast refining sector primarily serves domestic demand. China's curbs just 6 days into a war reflect a scramble across Asia to prioritize domestic needs as the crisis in the Middle East deepens. Officials from the National Development and Reform Commission, the country's top economic planner, called for a temporary suspension of refined product shipments that would begin immediately. According to people familiar with the matter, they asked not to be named as the discussions are not public. So we have that breaks, right? And then the other thing that broke yesterday, or that actually broke this morning, China sets a lower economic growth target of 4.5% to 5% for 2026 as challenges loom. Again, 4 and 5, about 5% GDP growth is what they're predicting, which is the lowest it's been since 1991. We're all feeling the pinch these days, aren't we? China's feeling the pinch too. Their projections are getting lower. Their property crisis is starting to get worse and has been getting worse. They're trying to hold it together right now. And this is where things are getting spooky, of course, because we have the situation happening in Iran, and this is the prediction that's happened across known time. You have a worldwide epidemic that is typically shortly followed by a world war. That's what we're seeing. And people would say I might be jumping the gun on that right now. We're only a week into this. We're less than a week into this at this present time. Saying this was the start of World War III is presumptuous. And, I understand that. I understand that argument. I'm just seeing what's happening right now. I'm seeing that U.S. and Israel are heavily engaged with Iran right now. Iran is taking aim at all the countries around them, which is now starting to pull these countries into it. They shot a missile at Turkey, which is a NATO partner, that got was intercepted. However, Iran's doing everything they can to drag everybody into this. And in some ways, it could drag everybody into this, because when you have this conflict that's going on and you have the Hormuz Strait that is being shut down and closed off, that is a lot of oil that goes through there. That is just not moving now. And now countries are struggling. We have stories like these we talked about this morning, where now countries are pivoting at this present time of what do we do? What's going on? So if it stays short, like was promised, 4 to 5 weeks, then hopefully it'll be all good. However, we'll feel the remnants of it because, as I said before, China was getting their oil from Venezuela, from Iran, from Russia. Now, 2 of those 3 gone. China still also buys from Saudi Arabia too. But their big players, Iran and Venezuela, are gone. And if the U.S. wins this war, well, guess what? It's game time. Because what China does is this, and this is the issue we had with the EV crisis, right? Or the EV situation, why we slapped tariffs on them and why it was so controversial for Carney to take them off. Is because they provide everything at ridiculously low prices and undercuts our industry here. And the way they do that is, well, they have to purchase energy from somewhere at low prices, and Iran was providing that to them. Iran was providing barrels of oil to them at $8, $9, $10, $11, $12 below market rate. Sweetheart deal. This allowed China to produce energy at low prices for themselves and continue to develop products at very low prices so they can sell them back to the U.S. and the West. And then as well, this allows them to build these EVs at ridiculously low rates and undercut our industries here. It's all one big circle. So say the Iran situation gets sorted out, and now we have a Western-friendly ally in Iran. So that's the outcome of all this. So that's the best case scenario, where this gets solved, U.S. wins, whatever. Best case scenario, that happens. Now, Iran is selling oil to China at market rate. And the problem China has is 25% of their energy refineries, 25% of the oil refineries are very small refineries. They call them teapots. And their profit margin is solely based off of the deal that China gets on oil from Iran. That goes away. Those refineries go away overnight, leading to an energy crisis in China. They have to start making solutions and figuring out what they're going to do. And now things start spiraling. And this brings me back to Canada. And Canada's role in all this is the issue I have with our Liberal government. Is Canada could be doing something really cool right now. Really cool. Because of, unfortunate circumstances, what's going on in Iran and what's taking place, it's skyrocketing oil prices around the world. Canada exports oil. In this case, Canada could be a lifeline to China and could be a lifeline to Asia. I'll tell you what I mean. Is we can mitigate potential world war by providing energy and oil to China. Because the minute you cut off a country's oil, then boom, world war erupts. They're going to war. It's got to happen. However, you keep slow dripping them oil, well, they still are able to keep their lights on. They are able to keep operating, but you end up doing something in the long term for them. You start selling oil to them at market prices, or maybe just slightly below market prices. Either way, enough to allow them to stay afloat, and you start bleeding them dry economically. And in the meantime, Canada gets that wealth transfer. And we start reclaiming our industry. We start reclaiming our factories. We start reclaiming our manufacturing, taking them back, and putting China on a fair footing with the rest of the world so they can't undercut the rest of our industries and take our jobs away. That could be Canada's role in all this right now. But alas, we have Brookfield Carney in power. And that's what is getting me going this morning. That is what's getting me going. These are the opportunities we potentially could have. These are the potential opportunities we have. We could be supplying Asia with even more crude oil, which we have one pipeline now that isn't at full capacity. If I'm a prime minister that thinks about country first, and I'm not a globalist trying to just extract value out of the individual, I would be putting that pipeline full steam ahead and get rid of that tanker ban and let's get things going, baby. But alas, we're not doing that. We have the likes of Mark Carney who doesn't know where he stands on issues anymore. That's what we're getting right now. That's what we're getting right now. So this is where that's the stage we're seeing at this present time. So there's three outcomes of all of this. We have a prolonged war that drags a bunch of other countries into this, and we end up having world war, and things are going to have to get settled that way. 2, it's a shortened war. It gets done in 4 to 5 weeks, as Trump promised, and we have a Western-friendly nation in Iran. Now, prices on oil go up to market prices, chokes China out. Or 3rd, Iran ends up fighting it off. The regime stays in place. And we'll see what ends up happening. And China still gets access to their below market value oil. These are things to consider. But right now, China has got time. China's got time. They have 3 months of oil in the reserves right now. Plus, I believe they have tankers off the coast of off Asia, I think it is, to also continue supplying them. But if this gets drawn out, well, it starts getting ugly. But again, it gets ugly for everybody. Ugly for the US, Canada. In terms of getting energy moving. This is kind of where we stand right now, and we're keeping a very close eye on all of this, because it goes back to the geopolitical play. A lot of people are focused on the reasons that are given for needing to go into Iran. I'm still very much in the perspective of, yes, those are convenient reasons to go and take out Iran, especially if there's definitely truth to them trying to build nuclear weapons. You definitely don't want that regime to have the nuclear option. And that's a very legitimate reason to go in and take care of business. However, this is also a big play to choke out China. And we're already starting to see the beginnings of that right now. The question is, Does Canada want to be a good ally and get on board and realize what China's doing? Or are we going to continue keeping the Brookfield Carney in charge in order to keep placating to China? We don't know. Let's pull up some of the super chats right now. We'll get right on into it. I'm sure this is going to be fascinating to watch. Marcon Blanco says, good morning from Naples, Florida. Many Canadians have joined me down here for winter. Our northern brothers and sisters sharing our lifestyle. Freedom. Way to be, Mark. Way to be. Jessica says, go check out Pierre on the Trigonometry Pod. Let's get it to 1 million views. Yeah, I think it's over like what? It's like close to 250,000 views now. It's awesome. Mike Stewart says, it's always been about China. Yeah, 100%. Couldn't agree more. Kevin Stangowitz says, President Trump should invoke the Defense Production Act to keep the California oil fields and refineries open and working to fuel Western U.S. and Hawaii. Yeah, I could see that for sure. Kevin also follows that up with, Alberta Premier Smith should work with President Trump to buy oil and gas pipelines from Alberta to U.S. Pacific coast for export to Pacific allies. Yes. That would be awesome. That's what we'd like to see. That's the way that we can do things. It is funny because the reason why Iran and China had that relationship too, and I want to bring this to attention, is because China was really Iran's only customer. So China could dictate how much they buy the oil for. Almost a similar relationship we have currently with Canada and the U.S. U.S. dictates how much they essentially get to pay our oil for, and we have no way of getting it to other people essentially at this present time, aside from one pipeline that refused to be used because of these emission caps and all this, tanker ban BS. So that it's funny. So Iran and China are in a very similar situation, and that's why it was such a sweet deal for China, and it was allowing them to keep funding these industries where it's severely subsidized and they could undercut the Western manufacturing. And so that's where I'm standing on it. Mark Blanco says this, Josh, great job doing your homework on how China buys resources. China is very difficult to negotiate a fair deal with. America has battled with them for decades. Yes. It's been ever since, I think they started, what was it, in the 70s? They were entertaining bringing China in the WTO and didn't officially bring China into the World Trade Organization until late 90s, early 2000s. It took that amount of time, but eventually got there. And now they've been officially part of it. And look, here we are 25, 30 years later. Look what's happened now. It's crazy. Mark follows that up with, America is all in on changing power in the Strait of Hormuz, permanently bank on IT. Yeah, it's a lot of people are bringing up the AI stuff too, especially on tech. We'll see how this goes, but you need energy. You require energy. JP Alberta First says, China has signaled that they are not going to support Iran with missiles or money. They have literally left Iran to fight this by themselves, and this means all of the Middle East countries they have pissed off. Yes. Iran's moves were strange, and I think I get what they were trying to do, and it's not working, where their goal was to go down guns a-blazing. So at this present time, in the meantime, they've attacked all the countries around them, going after the American bases in those regions or in those countries, thinking that, oh, shoot, these countries now would get mad at the U.S. for Iran attacking them. And it's had the exact opposite effect. Now these countries are ticked off, and some of which are going to start joining in on the cause to get rid of this regime and get things figured out. So it's not working out well for them. Mike Stewart says, accidentally confirmed by Chinese-born academic and Western-educated lawyer Victor Gao, corruption is rampant in China. Victor Gao, August 2024, in front of a live international audience. There you go. Because this is where we're at here, folks. This is where we're at. It's the relationship with China. It all comes together. And China's in a tough spot. Because if this all plays out the way we described and talked about today, that puts them in a severe issue. Because they're hitting a downward spiral themselves. If this all hits, they also have this huge property crisis where they have overcapacity and don't know what to do with them. And property prices are dropping like crazy. And you have, again, a communist nation that likes to control prices. Well, they're going to continue artificially trying to control prices and get in further trouble and further in debt their nation. And this is where the desperation across the board is happening. Every country in the world right now is struggling financially, some way, shape, or form. And every country is at their own point of desperation. Thus, it's just the perfect powder keg for things to pop off. And now with the US and Israel going after Iran and all that's going on, China and Russia are staying out of it. They're staying out of it because they don't want to get caught up in it, because they can't afford. Like, Russia can't afford another war right now. They're dealing with Ukraine. China can't afford a war. They can't afford a kinetic war with the US, and period, let alone with the way they're struggling financially right now and with their energy crisis. And people are saying, Josh, you're saying two things at once right now. And that's true. What I'm saying is China's trying to avoid kinetic war at all costs. They want to go about things in a different way. However, if they are completely cut off of oil, then they're left with no choice but to engage in kinetic war. So it's that weird balance that's happening right now that we're waiting to see how it all goes down. However, it's all popped off, on Saturday our time? It's now Thursday. We're not even a week into this. Lots has been said. Lots have been talked about. Lots of speculation. We'll see what ends up happening. We'll watch. We'll read a couple more super chats before we move into the next piece here. Mike Stewart says, remember, for everyone, the CCP is not a race. It's a poor excuse for a government. Yes, it's a communist government for sure. JP Alberta First says, Josh, would it be bad form to mention a live interview scheduled for today? What do you mean? Which interview is scheduled for today? I'm curious. Hit me up with which one did you mean? Let's see. People are responding to it. I don't know. I'll let you guys fill the blanks in for that one. I don't fully know what JP's getting at there. But sure, let's say that. Then Kevin Stankwitz says, now Trump offers a deal to Putin. If Russia agrees to peace deal in Ukraine, sanctions on Russian oil end, and Russia can profit from high oil prices. Dude, it's all coming together for sure. And this is where there's so many different sides to this conflict, right? And I get where everyone's coming from on it. You have the America First crowd that's saying this is bad, this is regime change, we don't want this, this is just killing our own people, this, that, the other. However, China's growing in strength every day, and this is clearly a move to undercut them once again. And it's either you let China keep doing what they're doing, or that's where the debate is the America First crowd typically doesn't see this as an American interest situation. But if you look into it deep enough, the argument can be made that it's in America's interest to deal with this, and it's in Western interest to deal with this the way they have. So it's, first off, the nuclear weapon situation is one thing. And then as well as China's growing in terms of growth, they're growing in terms of strength and growing their influence. So you have to undercut them at some point. So that's the debate. That's the debate people are having. Mauzinius, left nostril. Wow, what a name. Says, never trust China. We lie about everything. We do. Do we have a Chinese dissident in here? Let's go. That's a change. That's different. Oh man, here we go. We move forward though, because this is the story that people have been really talking about in Canada today, and this all comes together with what we discussed here with China. Okay, let's go. So Mark Carney keeps changing his tune. He keeps changing his tune. So we have the likes of the quotes. Let's read some quotes from literally since last Saturday. February 28th, Mark Carney says, Canada supports the United States acting to prevent Iran from obtaining a nuclear weapon and to prevent its regime from further threatening international peace and security. Despite numerous diplomatic efforts, Iran has neither fully dismantled its nuclear program, halted all enrichment activities, nor ended its support for regional terrorist proxy groups. So he said on February 28th that they support the U.S.'s action on this. Then Tuesday, March 3rd, he says, Prime Minister Mark Carney said Wednesday Canada supports U.S. and Israeli strikes on Iran with regret. Yeah, that was it. So then, so on Tuesday into Wednesday, Mark Carney said that he supported the strikes on Iran with regret and said it was another example of failure of the international order and that they were not informed in advance. We were not asked to participate. Prima facie, it appears that these actions are inconsistent with international law. So that's the stance he ends up taking. So supports it, then says, meh, it's support with regret, international law is being violated, and then follows that up with, we call for de-escalation. Call for de-escalation. Okay, that's where we're at. And then yesterday, he then said that they're not ruling out Canadian involvement in the war. We'll support our allies where it makes sense. So you have the likes of Melissa Lantsman here, who wrote this post. It says, we support it, we're upset about it, we think it's bad, but also we might join in. Prime Minister Mark Carney in the last 72 hours. And it's that piece. But there was this response to a reporter in Australia that got published today. I actually sent this to Reg, and I am like, did he say what I think he just said? Let's see if you can break it down here with me. This was rather confusing, if I'm being quite honest with you. Oh, sorry. That's like his statement from today. Actually, let's watch this first, and then get to the question here.
Question for Prime Minister Carney. You've said that Canada will not participate in U.S. military action in Iran. So can you definitively say that's going to remain the case, even if hostilities broaden, escalate, or are prolonged?
You've asked a fundamental hypothetical in a conflict that can spread very broadly. Today's events, recent events, point to that. So one can never categorically rule out participation. We will stand by our allies when it makes sense. There's a distinction between the offensive actions that were taken and are being taken by the United States and Israel, that were taken by them without consultation with Canada, with other allies.
So there's the answer from yesterday, right? We can't categorically rule out our joining in of this. Can't categorically rule it out. Then he gets hit with a question. And listen to his answer to this question. I legitimately was so confused listening to this answer. But I think he said what I think he said. Listen here to the question and listen to this answer.
But Prime Minister, how can you have it both ways? How can you say I understand your first statement you said was made in hours, but you also said there was some predictability. You knew this was going to widen. So how can you have it both ways? And in hindsight, should you have called for de-escalation in that first statement? No.
In hindsight, to that point, in my judgment. Secondly, in terms of war, there are likelihoods, there are possibilities. You have to plan for the worst, but there are no certainties in conflict. And so now that the conflict has moved on, now that the conflict is involving a much wider group, but even if, I don't want to say even if, but moving into the Gulf, moving into civilian infrastructure, we're saying a few things. One, it is not solely the decision of the principal belligerents to move to the de-escalation.
So he literally he says a lot of words just to not answer that thing directly. But you heard from him here right now. He said he shouldn't have asked for de-escalation. I understand that correctly. He said he shouldn't have asked for de-escalation. Let's replay just the first 20 seconds again, just to verify the question and the initial answer to this.
But Prime Minister, how can you have it both ways? How can you say I I understand your first statement you said was made in hours, but you also said there was some predictability. You knew this was going to widen. So how can you have it both ways? And in hindsight, should you have called for de-escalation in that first statement?
No. In hindsight, to that point, in my judgment. Secondly,
so Mark Carney admitted and then continued into this word salad later to further verify that's what he meant, that he shouldn't have asked for de-escalation. This man is all over the place. And it's getting to the point of being very frustrating, not just as someone who didn't vote for him, but in general. Canadians and people during severe conflict need true leadership. They don't need a pragmatist. They need someone who's giving them a solid answer, a clear answer of where they stand and what Canada's point of view on this is. That's what they need. And we're getting none of that here. None of it. We get, this over-explanation here, over-explanation here. I think that's what he said here. You shouldn't have to try and decipher code when it comes to talking about severe conflict in the world and how it may impact your country. Sorry, that's not the time to give a 3-minute answer on these issues. Giving 3-minute answers to a simple yes or no question is not helpful for anybody. And I can digest it. I can let it go when you're talking about economic policy. Sure. But when it's coming to something like this, that's black and white. What are we doing? What's happening? People need clarity. You're not getting it. And this is the issue with Mark Carney and this travel and this trip right now that he's on is, like, in general, being 15 years outside the country before running for prime minister, he's out of touch with Canadians right now. He's not here listening to the reaction to his press conferences, listening to what people are feeling. He's going with the winds of change. There's no spine to him. There's no integrity. There's no principle here. It's just, what are my staffers telling me I should say, and I'll say it. That's what this reads to me as. This is making no sense, and it's producing zero confidence in our government. And then you wonder why. All the chaos is happening right now with confusion around India, issues around China, IRGC agents in our country, Khalistanis, Bishnoi gang, all of it. Just spiraling out of control. It's because there's no leadership. There's no certainty. Mark Carney continues to shoot himself in the foot. I talked about this when he first got elected. This is a man who loves to play in the gray. Loves to play in the gray. He doesn't like being clear, and he doesn't like being decisive because, well, then he can hold him to his words. He does a lot of this wishy-washy thing so that he has holes to maneuver out of when things like this come up. I'm seeing this from some of his hardcore followers right now. You guys aren't listening. Listen to the nuance of what he says. Is that really what he said? This is what he was actually saying. And even then, they can do the gymnastics to try and reason their way out of whatever the heck this is. This is hurting him. It's hurting the party, for the Liberal Party. But most importantly, it's hurting Canada. Hurting us. Making us look incredibly, incredibly weak on the world stage. And he keeps bringing up the issue, well, no one brought us into it. No one talked about us before these attacks happened. Well, of course not. You have proven to be an untrustworthy ally. You are now bringing in and exchanging security analysis with the CCP. You are getting a deal done, which the MOU we still don't know. We haven't seen it yet. MOU with China, where we've agreed to exchange intelligence with them. RCMP. How in the world does that make sense? So, of course, the U.S. isn't going to trust you with anything. You're leaky. You're leaky. How can anyone trust you? And that's the frustration with all of it. And this is where we currently stand at this present time. We have, we'll hit the super chats here with some questions people bringing up, some points that people are bringing up. JP Alberta First says Harrison Faulkner is hosting a live debate between Jason Kenney and Bruce Pardy on Alberta Independence, 12 noon, probably Ontario time on YouTube. Cool. Yeah, people should check it out. That'd be great. I'd be interested to hear that. That'd be a very fascinating debate. And yeah, JP, don't feel bad. It wasn't bad for him at all. I'm thinking about my channel. Unlike others, for me, I will always 100% use my platform to promote any type of civil debate, or any other of these issues. I think we should shine as much light on these things as possible so that people keep talking. I think it's important. -1-2 says, why is Canada always 5 years behind the rest of the world? And now with the Liberals, it feels like we're 20 years behind. Elbows up? ? Yeah. Marcon Blanco says, Mark Carney will show up with cap guns. Really? Maybe. He also follows that up with, we have a seat at the back of the bus, Mr. Carney. Oh, gee. -1-2 says, Carney bingo. Saying, fundamentally, if I may, to be clear, dangerous divided world, oddly timed smile, looking under the podium. That's the Carney bingo for every press conference he does. That's funny. I agree. Mark says, sorry for trolling your channel, Josh, but Carney's not a world leader. Your military is a bag of pretzels. I think it has Trump MPG. Our military is hurting. Our military is hurting. There's really not very much we can typically provide right now, aside from our words when it comes to military support. There's very little we can provide right now because we've just decimated our military. Mousing left nostril says, Uncle Carney is dumb. He can't got it. Sounds good. Mark Blanco says again, 2026 Global Firepower Index. Iran ranks 16th globally, while Canada ranks 28th. Global Firepower is +3. Yeah, that's interesting, isn't it? That tells you a big story. That tells you a big story. Lucky Die 78 says the fact our government knew nothing of Venezuela, Mexico, or Iran should have Canadians concerned. Yes. Couldn't agree more. I don't feel like it gets enough coverage in the media. That's been such a consistent storyline throughout all of this. Venezuela, Mexico, Iran. The first thing we hear from any of our officials is, no one talked to us about it. No one let us know. No intelligence was shared with us. That's code for we're being cut out. That should concern people. That should concern people. Shannon says, left in the U.S. says that America first is not for this. This truth is the opposite. We don't want to hear about Left in the U.S. said, the left in the U.S. says that America first is not for this. The truth is the opposite. We don't want war by their terms. Fair enough. Mark coming in hot again says, I'll keep quiet for the rest of your program, Josh. Oh my gosh. Mark, you're always welcome here, dude. Don't sweat it. You're good. You're good. Randy from the Peg says, I watched the USA press secretary answer 30 questions from all types of reporters for 40 minutes weekly. Why does Canada not have something like this? Here's the thing. We have a variation of it, but it's broken right now. And that's called question period. Typically the prime minister is supposed to answer questions from the official opposition. And the thing is, he shows up maybe once or twice a week, maybe, if we're lucky. But then secondly, is because of parliamentary privilege, they don't actually have to answer any questions. So it's a lot of word salad and talking around issues. So yes, it would be nice to have a situation where we do put the prime minister in front of reporters, at least a representative from the PMO in front of reporters consistently to answer questions for what they're doing. But obviously, we're not going to be getting that because this PMO doesn't like transparency, so much so that they let the Parliamentary Budgetary Officer's contract expire, so they don't have any reports coming out about their budget. So here we are. Smutty Truth says, anyone else watching Pierre's interviews, stay clear, stay focused, protect our kids, good versus evil only. Yes. Focus on hope. Focus on what's happening and think about what could happen. Like we discussed today. Even with the infrastructure we currently have, ramp up our pipelines to 100%, repeal the tanker ban, or even if you want to use Bill C-5, choose to not obey the tanker ban for now and start getting our crude oil to these Asian markets, baby. This is a perfect time. People are in energy shortage because things are not moving out of the Middle East. So let's use ours. Let's get it going. Like, holy jumping. Oil prices have jumped. Alberta could be really benefiting right now. Canada could be benefiting right now. But alas, let's not do all that. That's stupid. Why would we do that? OP2 says, Five Eyes has failed because Canada is not trustworthy due to foreign interference and lack of a registry, in my opinion. Yes, couldn't agree more. Couldn't agree more. And I know I did a video about this, 2 days ago, with Wen Pao Wu, senator, who is promoting a website informing people if they should apply for the foreign agent registry, if that were ever to become a reality. Coaching people on if they should or should not. It's crazy. Yes, of course, Canada can't be trusted. It's insane. Absolutely insane. We move forward here, though. We move forward. Because this was just a fun little situation that came up. CTV, we'll only play the first 45 seconds of this, but CTV called out Mark Carney's Brookfield dealings, which is funny.
Talked about our dependence on great powers and sometimes even individual corporations. What did you take away from that?
I think it's quite interesting that the latter, that when he said, dependence on great corporations, I thought, boy, wasn't he the chairman of Brookfield Assets? And a lot of these deals do involve his former company, but at the same
that he also happens to have shares in. But it was funny to kind of bring that up. Even the media never talks about his Brookfield dealings, never talks about his history, doesn't talk about the shares he owns in these things, and just ignores them. And so it was like the first time we heard someone on like the mainstream channels talk about it. I was like, yeah, that's a nice little nod and wink to all that. But remember I was talking about the Carney's deal with China. 49,000 EVs coming in. We have intelligence. We'll be sharing intelligence with China. We'll be bringing their media here. We now have visa-free. We have now visa-free access to go to China now as Canadians. All of this. We're starting to see the remnants of this and the media integration is starting to happen. So CBC did a piece here. Again, we'll play only the first little bit. Is now sending people to China to cover things that are happening in China. Which
the world's second largest economy just kicked off its ceremonial legislature known as the Two Sessions. It's one of the most important weeks on China's political calendar. Thousands of delegates gather to hear the Communist Party unveil its political and economic roadmap. And for the first time in years, CBC News has been permitted to enter China. That's where Chris Brown is in Beijing this morning. Chris, this was always going to be a big week on the Chinese political calendar, but it's got a lot more complicated given what's happening in China.
It has indeed, David. Thousands of delegates from all over this vast country are coming here to Beijing. They're part of the Two Sessions, as you say, the most important legislative gathering and also the political advisory side of things as well.
So there it is. So we have CBC reporters reporting directly from Beijing now. And then CTV released this piece of tourism that just read as weird. Just watch this for a little bit.
Chrissy Van joins us today from the Van, from Vancouver, and she is with us on behalf of the Hong Kong Tourism Board, and we're talking about Hong Kong, so thank you for joining us this morning.
Thank you. Here to fuel your wanderlust.
Well, I love that because so many people are looking for new and different destinations to head to. And obviously, the first step in every journey starts with a first step. And so let's talk about getting to Hong Kong. What was that like for you?
The beauty was the adventure started right when you're on board that airplane. I traveled on Cathay Pacific. They have incredible dining. And yes, I use the word dining, not airplane food. It's elevated. You arrive nourished, rested. And that's good news because once you get there, I stayed at the Park Lane Hotel right in Causeway Bay. You experience the vibrant bustle of the city, but also near some great green spaces as well to decompress after the travel.
Now, did that surprise you, the green spaces? Because it surprised me when I heard about because we take a look at that skyline, we take a look at what we think we know about Hong Kong, and it's like, oh, green spaces. So tell us a little bit about that.
Without question. Yeah, it really did surprise me. I got my first little taste taking the Peak Tram. It was established in 1888, so you get this elevated view, and you see all that green space mixed in with the skyline. But then we traveled to Sai Kung, which was a
just like watching this, I was like, it just... Now, I know I've had friends who are from Hong Kong, been to Hong Kong. Great city. Don't get me wrong. Great time. However, in response to what we've had in terms of deals that have been signed with China and seeing this start getting posted now is like, huh? This just felt contrived and fake. It just doesn't feel real. She feels like she's putting on a performance. Look how great Hong Kong is. Green space. And I guess she's the head of the tourism board or whatever there, but like, this just feels like it's forced. And it just feels like propaganda in a lot of ways. Like, come to Hong Kong. Look at all the amazing things. It starts as soon as you get on the airplane. Wow. Look out the window. There's green places. Whoa. It feels weird. And, you know, it was released an hour ago with 41 views. All right. This tells you that people, it's just weird. The timing of all this is my guess and what I'm seeing. This is the response to that deal done with China. CBC sending reporters now to China to cover things that are happening there. I think it was someone said as well, Tiananmen Square. Yeah, we've gone from covering what happened in Tiananmen Square in 1989 to glazing China. CBC, which I thought was a funny comment. But yeah, it's weird. It comes across super fake and forced. And I am buying it. And I don't think anyone in the chat is buying it for not 1 second. Mao says, friendly Westerners, do not do business with the CCP. It will cost you everything. Yes, that's the warning we keep getting, folks. The warning we keep getting. Moving the World 3862 says Azteca TV did an investigation on how the Cuban regime sells humanitarian donations to the people. I've seen it myself. How much are we sending? $8 million? I have to check in on that. I haven't heard that. Interesting. Lazarus says no effing way. Hong Kong. No. Nope. And then Daryl says Carney speaks with a forked tongue. Yes, I think that's a very generous way of putting it. That tongue could be split in 4 different ways at this point. He's giving so many different stories, and so this is where we're at, folks. I'll leave it there. This is kind of this all feels weird, doesn't it? It all kind of feels odd and contrived at this present time. But to summarize, China is facing trouble. If this Iran situation continues, well, they're in trouble in terms of not being able to subsidize the oil they want to, or even getting oil altogether. It either goes from not getting oil if this war continues, or USA wins, Western friendly government gets installed, and they don't get their sweetheart deal with Iran anymore, which puts their refineries at significant risk of closing down, at least 25% of them. All while they're dealing with a real estate collapse, and their own GDP is it's not shrinking, but they are the threshold of the height of what they could hit is getting lower and lower now, lowest since 1991. They're getting choked out. Trump is choking them out. And between tariffs, between the situation happening in Iran and their real estate problems, China's in tough. China's in tough. And it would be nice for Canada to get on board and do their part to choke them out further. That's how I feel about it. And stop giving them lifelines like we have. They may have choked us out, but maybe. We'll see. Oh, let's go. We got some folks in the chat. We got the bots in the chat. They came late today. They came late, but the chat bots are in the chat though. Tell me that I'm wrong. This is fake news. China forever. CCP. fly the flag of the CCP. Let's go. That's how it goes. But Marc on Blanco, we'll finish off with what Marc has to say here. It says, that was a fast hour, Josh. Thank you. No problem, Marc. It's always a pleasure having you, sir. Always a pleasure being here with you amazing people. So we will continue watching how this all goes. I'm sure at this point, because we keep getting news day by day, week by week, and it will all depend on the status of this war and when's it taking place. Does it go out for longer, or does it get done in the time Trump says it's going to get done? We'll see. We will see. But anyways, whatever it is you're doing, whether you be at work or getting your homework done or just enjoying your morning coffee, whatever it is you're doing, wherever you are, I love you. I'm out. Peace.